Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 366. And my next guest is fantastic, man. She just started posting constantly. And that's why I noticed her. And I thought, gotta get her on the show. But it's been, just backstage, just learning more about her. You guys have to follow her, okay? Her name is April Dawn, and she is just on fire. And what I mean by that is just she's teaching CMOs, well, not teaching CMOs, but teaching people what a CMO does. And I think you guys need to pay attention. So welcome to the show, April, and thanks for being here.
Rob, hi. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for letting me jump in. Um, yeah, you are absolutely right. I mean, I am a fractional CMO for online companies, typically doing 2 to 5 million, and we can dive into that. We can go wherever it is that we want to go. But I have been online full time for the past decade, and have just worked myself up to the place where I am now.
And it's funny because I've been on social since it was basically, born, and I discover great people like yourself, even though they've been around for a long time. And people come up to me, how long you been in business? Oh, I've been an entrepreneur 30 years. Oh, I just discovered you. So, you know, but when I discover people such as yourself on social that are just, you know, having such great information, I want to get you on the show. And that's why, for the audience members, a lot of the people I do have on the show are people I think have incredible superpowers. They're teaching the world, and for you though, you know, you've been all over North America, which is exciting in itself. It's not just you're teaching, but you're traveling and you're showcasing to the world what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It is not like it's very much something that I fell into, but I have been traveling since 2011. I started traveling by going all over North America. I spent 3.5 years hitchhiking across North America. When I started my first iteration of my online business in 2015, I made my first international trip over to Indonesia, and bounced around Southeast Asia for 3.5 years while I was building my business. And just really have not stopped traveling. I would say the time that I have spent most recently in Mexico has been the first stretch of time where I have been in one place for multiple years, which is a new adventure in itself. But I have built my business in its entirety, while being nomadic.
That is fantastic. I mean, we spent 2 weeks in southern France back in October, and that was incredible. But here's the thing: is every time I travel, I get people calling me, reaching out, and they'll say, "Hey, Rob, where are you?" I'm in France. I'm in Spain. I'm in Italy. I'm in Walt Disney World, and I get so much business when I'm traveling. It's like, why do I even want to stay in the office anymore?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's absolutely a lifestyle piece. It comes with its own set of challenges and own sets of sacrifices. One of the things that I am always really happy to do for new entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are just starting to travel is share SOPs that I have come to find that allow me to both work and travel without losing a lot of days or just like being able to maintain a consistent level of productivity. So that's always something that I am super happy to share with people.
It's I see a lot of people out there right now, especially those using AI, and they think, "Oh, I can just use AI to create an SOP," and that may be true to an extent, but it doesn't give the full picture. With your experience, you can dive in and add things to the SOP that the AI probably never thought of.
I mean, I'm super sure, absolutely. Like, they're traveling. and working, there's definitely a lifestyle piece that is attractive to people. And so I've had the same type of thing where I have people asking like where I am or where am I going next, or like send me a photo of like what it looks like outside of your window, because it's always so different. And I think like there's definitely a lifestyle piece. Not everybody knows how to do that for themselves or get themselves to that place. But it is like absolutely a trade off. You see people with like photo shoots by the beaches. I don't know any nomadic entrepreneur who works at the beach. I just don't. Like, it is not an actual feasible thing if you are trying to be productive. And so there's little things like that that you just like learn, oh, this looks good, but it doesn't actually work.
Right. When I travel, I stop taking my laptop. And people are
Yeah.
like, well, don't you need a laptop? I said, well, we're all connected with these devices. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
take my mini iPad with a keyboard,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't have to. A lot of times, I don't have to take it out for security because it's right there. With a
yeah.
laptop, you got to clunk the thing, and then you get this person on the airplane. You got it on your screen, and they tip your seat back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like, no. So I stopped taking my laptop. I go smaller,
yeah,
and it allows me to focus because now I'm not distracted by this laptop. If I
yeah,
have a note and I have my phone, I just put my notes in, get back, and then use my iPad and do the work. And in fact, when I was
yeah.
in France, I actually penned another book called Legacy. And
No way.
when I got back home, I you know re-edited it, and it was up on
Yeah,
Amazon. And so yeah, I work when I'm traveling, but I still
yeah.
enjoy my traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that is amazing, Rob. I love that you wrote an entire book while you were traveling. Like that is epic and I think worth just acknowledging by itself.
It's some books aren't. I mean, don't come easy. I have 60 plus books in 12 years. There was ones that uh, took a long time. I mean, my very first
For
book
sure.
took almost a year, um, because I struggled. I thought, okay, this is what I need to put into the book, and then I had the book mostly written. I thought this is garbage, and I tossed it. And it
Oh,
was when I was coming back from Arizona on an airplane. I thought, and someone in the back seat or something, they were talking about sharing, and I thought, huh, you know, why don't I just call the book Share and just make it very easy? And it was all about social media. It was just 27 things. This is what you have to do to improve your existence on social media. And the book
yeah.
took off. I mean, immediately I had like 2,000 copies sold right away, and I thought this is great. And then
That's so good.
my second book, I wrote a book on SEO. I partnered with a guy up in Winnipeg, and from start to finish to number one bestseller in 4 countries took 60 days. And
Hey.
but not all books are gonna, there's I can't tell somebody, oh, it's gonna take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
depends on how fast they can get the content to me.
Yeah.
I had one book drag on for 2 years because they just weren't giving me the content, and then
The
finally
material,
it's
yeah.
like, dude, what you want to talk about is no longer relevant. So not
I
every book
mean,
is,
I think that is amazing, and like one of the things that I want to point out about what you're saying is we are 100% our own worst critics, right? Like I have had things that I've put together, pieces of content, trainings, whatever, where I have just really sincerely doubted like the quality of the material that I was putting together, and you put it out into the world, and everybody is like, "This is amazing." And
Mhm.
I think that is just such an important piece where we're all our own worst critics and don't let like our own self rejection stop us from sharing the message that we have with the world. I think that is just like a really, really important piece. I
Well,
think,
here's the problem where I think we're all expected to be perfect. And I've been
sure,
teaching for a long time, good is better than perfect because perfect takes too
sure.
long and costs too much money. And you got to think about this. This is like I have the iPhone 12, but now we have the iPhone 17, which means there's 17
Yeah,
times
yeah,
that Apple improved a product.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my books aren't perfect, and I can go back and I can correct them and update them if I wanted to, or
Yeah.
I can just write another book, and
Yeah.
so, sometimes we have to look at things and say, "Look, can we just get our product out there and start making money, and then we can always improve it later?"
Yeah, there's a marketing philosophy that I really like when people bring up, and it's just something that I have in the back of my head. But as marketers, as entrepreneurs, all we do, sleep, eat, optimize. Like there is a continual cycle of optimization because you're never done. And you are right. The way that you get something out to product or out to market, the faster you get something out to market, the faster you get feedback on it, the faster you get data on it, which means you have the ability to optimize it faster than if you just keep it with yourself and like tinker with it.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I think that's, yeah, so fun. So
And and
fun.
and and, what I see lately, and maybe it's because of COVID,
Mm,
but I think that, entrepreneurs, especially CEOs, are expected to do so much more,
mm,
with so much less that they
yeah,
burn themselves out very quickly, and I
yeah.
didn't see that prior to COVID. Yes,
Okay.
maybe if it happened, but after COVID, I think people were already in depressed mode. They were
Sure,
already
sure.
behind in sales, and now they're expected to pick up 4 years of slack and do it in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. That is the way that I see it is less reflective of COVID, but I get where you're coming from. Like I get how you're making that connection. The one thing that I've noticed in marketing departments specifically over the rise of AI in the last handful of years is like marketing departments are shrinking from the bottom up. And so copywriters are like more so editors
Mhm.
and the expectation is a higher quality and like a higher quantity and quality of output faster for the same or reduced cost. And so like that's what I'm seeing in the world of copy. I see the same thing in like the world of SEO, and you'll have a better sense of this than I would, but like SEO people are just on their heads because there's like AIO that is coming out and people are learning that and that is the new thing.
Mhm.
And like
Well,
designers,
AIO, GEO, SEO.
sure.
It's like, people are like, "All right, it was just SEO. I figured it out." But now there's
Yeah,
all this
and then
other
now
stuff, and it's like, yeah,
what do
yeah.
I do with all of that? But same along the thread with like designers and developers, like the amounts, quality and quantity of output is just increasingly expected to go up without like cost going up. So like I hear what you're saying, I can relate to what you're saying, but I think just in from a different lens.
Well, also, and maybe it's because I'm from the SEO world, as I see businesses constantly, instead of putting more effort into their website, putting more blogs, putting more educational information, what they do is they rebuild the website. And the
Mm,
problem is when they rebuild the website, they don't move over any of the old links. They don't cross
sure,
links.
sure.
And so what you have is people searching and they're getting dead links, and
Yeah, yeah,
Google's
yeah.
like, forget it, we're not ranking you anymore because nothing makes sense to us. So and so what they do then is, oh well, this site's not working. Let's build another one. And they lose all the
Oh, that's
content and
heartbreaking.
I'm like, that's ridiculous. I
Yeah,
just
that's so heartbreaking.
I I just recently was helping a client, and I said, "Look, this is what you have to do. Let's create all these blog posts for you." So we created a year's worth of blog posts,
Nice. Okay.
and we had them all scheduled out. And then they had a new web guy come in because they couldn't afford me, so they go cheaper.
Yeah, okay.
The guy builds a website and says, "Well, you don't need the blogs." So
Oh,
all that work that I did
yeah.
completely gone, and now they're
No.
wondering why the site's not ranking anymore. It's like,
Yeah, that's so heartbreaking. That's so heartbreaking. I think that's something that is easy to run into when you have a lot of turnover, a lot of churn in your team. Everybody comes in with different thought processes, different ideas, And that was actually one of the things that I noticed when I was running my little agency. And so maybe I'll just like backtrack for a second. But I used to have an agency where I would have a team that would do development on like funnels for clients. And so we would do a combination of traffic and funnels. And so my team would do all of the client development. And what I realized and understood after a handful of years in that agency was like that model was actually a disservice to the client, because my team would come in, they would understand what we were building, why we were building it this way, how it worked, how we would maintain it, how we would optimize it. They understood that. And as soon as the term with the client was done and the client would go back to their team, their contractors, whatever their own setup was, they would not understand why we built things the way we did or how to optimize it or how to maintain it. And so it really just ended up doing the client a disservice, which is like 100% why I shut that agency down, just like in my own like what's the word that I am looking for? Like my own level of like integrity with clients. Like I could not continue on that model, seeing what I was seeing, and so that is like where I shifted into the consultancy model,
Mhm.
where I like it ended up being just a massive value add for the client, because all they really needed was my brain. And so I could come in at a cheaper cost than bringing my entire team with me, um, their team. So I went in and started like managing client teams. Their team got an upgrade in skill set. Like it was just, I got to keep more of my margin. It was just a win 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 for everybody. And I'm sure you see this in your own work. But just like the amount of churn, bringing it back to what you were saying, like it always causes issues, and it causes more issues than what I think is necessary. Like you find good people, you take care of them, you help them learn and optimize and like up level their skill sets, and you just take off.
So let's go back a little bit and let's talk about your origin story because not everybody is born to be an entrepreneur. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've accomplished quite a lot, but the thing is that even though I'm an author, a publisher, consultant, all these things now, it wasn't like that before. In
Sure.
1995, I created a carpet cleaning business because I thought I could do it better than the previous people I worked for. And although I had that company for 19 years and I overlapped that one with what I have now, a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of a lot of the things that I learned doing that, cleaning carpet and creating my own marketing, became the foundation of what Anspach Media is
sure.
now. And so, people are like, Rob, carpet cleaning to world consultant, author, how does that even happen? You so it's yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I love origin stories. I think they're one of the most interesting thing to understand about people. I had no idea that you started with a carpet cleaning business, so thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, my entire entrepreneurial career started because I had like an epiphany level moment where I realized that I was the only common denominator in all these life situations that I did not love, and nothing was going to change if I didn't change. And so, after that epiphany, and I don't know how else to describe it, it was like an epiphany level moment. I am the oldest of three, I have two younger sisters, and a day or two after I had that light bulb moment where I saw my life in a way that I hadn't seen it before, my youngest sister came over and she's like, April, do you want to go to the East Coast of Canada with me? I don't know what I'm going to do or anything. And like that decision was the first time in my entire life that I ever said yes to myself, for myself, without any consideration of what I should do or what was appropriate or what other people would think. And so she asked me, do I want to go to the East Coast of Canada? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And it was very literally that moment changed the trajectory of like the course of my life. And so that started me off on a journey that ended up lasting 3.5 years. And I really used my life as a petri dish. And so I had a very hippie mentor at the time who taught conscious communication and conscious values. And just used my life as a petri dish to find a new way to exist and interact in the world in a way that was less painful for me, in a way that was less painful for the people that I was interacting with, and in a way that ideally left everybody better off for those interactions. And after studying conflict resolution and using my life as a petri dish, um, I was in Northern California with a girlfriend. We were in like the redwoods. Um, where were we? Somewhere in Humboldt County. I don't remember exactly where. And like I realized that the skill set that I had developed for myself over the last handful of years that could be valuable to other people. Um, and so I hired a business coach while living in the forest. Basically, there was a little bit more to it, but that was basically what happened. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to build businesses. And I started a conflict resolution practice, not having any idea what I was going to do or any idea how the online space worked. And that was what got me online.
Wow. And it's funny when I hear these stories of people that, get online. And I was an entrepreneur before online was a thing. So it's like, so I think people today though do have a more of an advantage now than they did,
Yeah.
in the 90s when I started, because they have, when I started, AOL was just becoming a thing. Although it was out there, it wasn't in everybody's homes. It wasn't there. We didn't have the internet like we have now.
Yeah.
And I started off with a pager, not a cell phone. Now it's like everybody, you have all the world's information in your pocket.
Yeah.
Access to anything, anywhere.
Yeah.
And back then, I had to go to the library. I had to phone a friend. It was all these things that I think created businesses long ago, made people harder.
Mhm.
These entrepreneurs back then were just they had a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
You just didn't know how to implement it, and the internet made things faster. And
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: is that now we have so many people on the internet, so many people on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's become noise, and
Hmm.
and I think there too is that you know we and I look at people now working for entrepreneurs. Some of them are they're the younger generation.
Yeah.
They have more knowledge of how things work now on the internet, and they don't want to be a CEO dependent. They want to get
Mm.
paid more. They want to, they do want to take more vacations, but the CEOs are, kind of, you know, non-responsive, and I get it. I'm a CEO, and sometimes I don't want my employees to have too much freedom because I need them to get work
Sure.
done. But
Yeah. Absolutely.
over the years, I've kind of compartmentalized stuff, and I've given work to, my vendors, people I know that I can trust to get work done. And it's helped me out. It's freed up my time. I don't have to think like a CEO. I think, and there's a difference between a CEO and an entrepreneur. I'd rather go back to the
Yeah.
entrepreneur, the free thinker, the guy who gets stuff done, the action taker, instead of the CEO who's pushing papers and signing stuff. And
I mean, in my own mind, or just like what I've seen through clients, through colleagues, through my own experience, like I don't know if I'd make such a distinction between a CEO and an entrepreneur, not at least until like an eight-figure business. 'Cause, like at eight figures, and you have, then I can see that where the CEO is more of a paper pusher. And even in that, right, like all you're doing when you're moving from like your first seven figures to your first like multi seven. is that you are building the support system around yourself so that you can work on the business rather than in the business. And I would say the work that I do now, that is like the biggest lever that I help entrepreneurs and CEOs pull, where 2 to 5 million is like the sweet spot that I really, really like, because the back end is just tends to be a bit of a hot mess, and I am trying to be like cautious with my words right there. But because at that 2 to 5 million mark, like the CEO, the founders got their business to that level through a sheer like determination and grit and persistence and resilience, and like they are now the biggest bottleneck in their business,
Mhm.
where everything goes through them, all of their marketing, their sales, their fulfillment, and yes, they have support around them, but they are still the one leading the team, in some cases doing project management, not all the time, hopefully not. But they become the biggest bottleneck in their business. And so one of the levers that I help pull is taking marketing off of their plate. And so instead of spending 30 to 60% of their time with their marketing team, they now spend 10% of their time. And it's not to say I can do the same thing with fulfillment or customer service or sales or accounting or any like ops, any other kind of department. So there are still things that they need, but that freedom from like 30 to 60% of their time focused on marketing to like 10% of their time focused on marketing gives them the ability to focus more on the business than in the business. Maybe the next thing they do is hire their next C-suite level support. But I think like that is a really, really important place for an entrepreneur to get to, obviously, depending on their vision and what they desire for their lives, but to continue to allow the business to run without it running on or through them.
Yeah. When I guess when I first started, as an entrepreneur back in the 90s, one of my friends owned a staffing service and they were making a lot of money. But,
Mm,
even though he was the founder and the CEO, he gave up the CEO title. He went back into sales because that's
sure.
what he enjoyed. And he hired
Ah,
a
yeah, yeah.
CEO to come
Yep.
in and revamp everything.
Yeah.
Still the owner. He still had, 100% control, but he just
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
want to deal with the day to day. And I
Yeah.
get it. I get it sometimes.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Not all founders are built to be CEOs. Not all of them want to be. Not all of them are meant to be. I
No,
think that was a really smart move on your friend's point, just acknowledging like where their desires were, where their skill sets were, where their strong suit was, and just bringing in the support that they needed to continue to allow the business to run while they stayed in their zone of genius. Like, bravo to your buddy there. Like, really nicely done.
and he had the business for I think 30 years. And when he sold it, he was just grateful because, he made the money,
Yeah.
but he didn't have to deal with the day-to-day headaches. And
Yeah.
for a lot of entrepreneurs that become successful, business owners, CEOs, sometimes, they go back to the time where, you know, yes, they started the business. They poured out their heart, their sweat, their tears. They remember those moments. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started as an entrepreneur, and it was that determination, that drive. And I
Yeah.
don't think I have that same determination or drive that I did 30 years ago. It's
Sure.
different. Now it's
Yeah.
more authority. People are like, "Oh, Rob, you wrote all these books. Great. I wanna hire you." Yeah, but where were you 30 years ago when I was grunting and grinding so there is that I think there is that differentiating that we, shift from
Sure.
and but we still remember the heartache of starting a business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I know the way that I feel now in my business as compared to the way that I felt a decade ago is like it's different. It's absolutely different. And so I don't have the same breadth of like time to make those kind of distinctions for myself as you do. So I really appreciate like hearing your perspective. but I can relate. Like, I do understand where you're coming from in my own way.
Well, and, and a lot of the experiences that I, happen to have, running a cleaning business, a lot of them became part of what I call Robisms, my sayings that I teach
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
especially the cheaper the client, the more hassles involved. When I had a cleaning service, if I went in as the cheap price, what I got was the most pain in the ass clients, the dirtiest
Sure.
carpets,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
hassles that. But when I raised my prices and really raised my prices, I got people that loved what I did. Made it so easy for me to do what I do, and then
Yeah.
referred me to other people just like them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, what we learned a long time ago has bearing on what we do now. And the things that I do now, I love because I've incorporated a lot of the things that I learned in high school a long time ago, learning code on computers makes it so much easier to SEO and build websites. You know,
Sure.
although I hated writing in high school, I was the worst. Look at me now. 60 books of awful grammar. No, just kidding.
I mean, yeah, I think that's gorgeous, and I think it's super important. There is like a piece that when you were talking about code, a couple things because like the SaaS world, like developers, that world is on its head just right now in the same
Mhm.
breath of like everything that's happening with AI. So for myself, I'm really curious to know like how that's going to end up leveling it out
Well,
or leveling
here's
out.
here's the nice thing about AI, and I want everybody to understand that AI is a tool.
Yeah,
You have to make sure that you understand what you're asking the tool to do. But I don't have to code anymore.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
And sometimes I'll have a website. The customer says, my website's broken. What do I do? I'll run the website through AI, and it'll tell me where it's broken and how to fix it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
2 minutes later, it's fixed, and I don't have to deal.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
yes, it's a tool that's making life easier and faster.
Yeah,
I can still
yeah.
build the same if I want, or I can tell the customer, "Hey, it took 2 minutes. It's a gift. You're welcome." You know, um, but then there's opponents of AI and say, that it's destroying entrepreneurs' minds. It's doing this. It's doing.
Mhm.
But look, again, you know, these were supposed to destroy the world too. I don't think that
Yeah, sure.
happened. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's going to be pros and cons with every new invention. Like people who are cautious about it, people who are all into it. I think that is just the way progress looks, and how AI ends up playing out. I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows the way that AI is going. There's actually a podcast I was listening to a little while ago, so I'm going to end up like butchering this analogy. But it was something along the lines where Einstein had an IQ of like 160, 162, and some of his work allowed for GPS, which was a large, like, foundational rail for everything that we have built over the last handful of decades. And that was at an IQ of like 160. And the podcast was talking about how AI is going to end up with an IQ that is like exponentially like smarter and larger than that. And if Einstein's IQ was like responsible for basically the modern world, like the way that we have an opportunity to evolve and change and learn and grow is just exponential in a way that has never been present before in like the course of human history. And so I think where we are right now, what we're doing is just a really, really exciting time
Mhm.
to watch it unfold in real time.
Yeah, but I don't think people see it that way. They look at it going, "Oh my God, my job's going to be in jeopardy.
Sure, sure,
Sales are down." And I do see a lot of entrepreneurs right now, especially the last 2 years, suffering.
sure.
They don't know how to deal with AI, or the businesses they used to coach are no longer, wanting to hire them because they can just go to AI
Yeah,
and say, "Hey, how can I improve?"
sure. Yeah.
here's the thing is that are you going to hire AI because it's going to give you the answers that you want? Or are you going to hire a
Mm,
coach that's going to tell you the answers that you need?
yeah, 100%. I would not replace, at least not where AI is right now, with like human involvement or human perspective. I hired a tax strategist just a couple months ago, as I work to do some restructuring in the back end of my business, actually to lower my tax burden. So I'm very, very excited about it. Very excited about this. But I remember having these conversations with AI to like get my bearings and like what do I need to do and what's my first step, and then hiring the tax strategist and like taking the information that I got from AI and just like researched and put together on my own and vetting it against someone who has like 25, 30 plus years in their field. And they were like, this is good, this is good, this is dumb, don't you dare do this. And just like we're able to vet my plan and help put me on a path that, I mean, has the potential to be very, very, very lucrative for me. And so I think like AI has its place in those conversations, but I would not choose AI over someone with like the real world experience and like a decade plus of it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how much you feed AI. I'm sure
Yeah.
AI's copied all my books. It
Okay.
still doesn't talk like me. It still doesn't think
Yeah.
like me. It still doesn't have the sarcasm that, I'm known to have. So yes, you can have an almost clone, but not, an exact replica.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
One of the
Absolutely.
one of the posts that I saw that you recently put on Facebook was scaling without margin isn't growth. It's self-sabotage with spreadsheets. And I like that
Oh,
because there's a
100%.
lot of people out there that are going, I gotta scale, I gotta scale, I gotta scale.
Yeah.
But they don't increase their prices. I'm like,
Yeah, or pay attention to margin. Like you're paying attention to bottom line revenue. You're paying like you're not paying attention to profit. You're not paying attention. Yeah, that is definitely a rabbit hole that we could go down. But I think margin is not something that at least early entrepreneurs pay nearly enough attention to. And without margin, you can't hire, you don't have marketing budgets, you don't have like budget for ad spend, you don't have budget for R&D, you don't have, but you don't have budget. You pay yourself, you pay your team, and you continue to live. And that is an uncomfortable, unsustainable cycle to operate and exist in.
mhm, yeah, yeah, you can't, you know, and I think a lot of people think, well, look at Walmart. They did it with low margins. Uh, but you know what? They bought a lot of
It's a
stuff,
volume play.
on volume and they got better pricing than you did. So,
Yeah.
not everybody can be Walmart and or Costco or any of these places. Why don't you just be uniquely yourself?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I go on the internet. I don't even know why we call it the internet anymore because really it's Facebook and LinkedIn. That's all I go to. So I go on Facebook. I like all these ads are like, why buy ChatGPT for $20 a month when you can buy our system that's better for 15? Who's really gonna save you $5 just to get
Yeah.
something that's not even as good? But
Yep.
there
Yeah,
are
exactly.
companies there are companies out there that think people will just shift their loyalty for a few dollars.
Yeah, they also like those guys. There was an ad that I've been seeing recently, and I have so much concern and so much empathy for this guy, where he is talking about like how AI is dead, and I'm like, we are not even like we're not even at the crux of AI. It's not even mainstream. Like this is still the early adopter phase.
Mhm.
It's just yeah, I think it'll all even itself out. It'll all pan itself out. But I get what you mean. I hear where you're coming from, and I think it's just they're gonna learn what they need to learn, right?
So, how do people learn about you? Where do they go?
Yeah, I am easily found on Facebook and Instagram. I would say, or sorry, Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are the places where I am the most active, and are probably the easiest to get in touch with me. Um, So my handle is CMO Atlas on both or April Dawn on both, depending on what you're looking for. And Rob, I can make sure that you've got some links so that people can get in touch with me. But I would say those are the two platforms that are the easiest.
And you put out a lot of content, and and I know that there's people out there they'll say, "Well, that's too much content." You ever see what I post? I mean, LinkedIn, it's like 10 times a day, and people are like, "That's crazy." Is it though? Because
No,
you get a
it's
lot of
really not.
followers.
Yeah, it's
Now,
really, really not.
the thing is now if you're posting 125 times a day like I saw someone doing, I think that's a little
Yeah.
excessive. But 10 times a day? No. It just
No.
here's the thing is not everybody's going to see your content. And Facebook and LinkedIn, a lot of the social networks have I don't even think 2% of my followers see my stuff anymore. It's probably less than that.
Yeah.
But not everybody's on Facebook or
Yeah.
LinkedIn when you think they are. So when I post, I might get a few people looking, and then later in the day, more people looking. And so it adds up over time. And so I've
Yeah.
gotten customers and clients who have seen stuff, and they'll say, Rob, I saw that video. Can I hire you? Yeah. So you never know. But
Absolutely.
posting once a month or once a week doesn't cut it anymore.
No, it really, really doesn't. It really doesn't. I have some CTO buddies that I am always trying to encourage to post more. They think like, because they come from a different space, it's a different mindset, it's a different background, and they're like 2 times a week, this is good, right? I'm like, I'm so sorry that you think it is good. Please post more.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and not to tell people to sit in front of their computer all day long with their keyboards and I use a scheduler. I do. I use what's called Social Bee. And I have thousands of content already in there, and it's
Mhm.
scheduled and it goes out different times a day. And so people think, well, Rob, you're just in front of the computer 24 hours a day. No, honestly, I don't want to be in front of the computer. I want to be outside. I want to be traveling. I want to do
Yeah,
all kinds of
yeah.
different stuff. But you have to give that appearance that you're constantly on there because people think, wow, this guy's awesome. Or in your case, you're on fire. It's like, but it also gives people credibility for what you do. It
Mhm.
gives them a sense of authority because, you're talking about the things that you do or the benefit that you're giving them. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the more that you talk about what you do to others, the more that they feel safe that they can hire you.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think content systems, organic content systems, are one of the first things that I will encourage, especially new entrepreneurs, to put in place. Because you are absolutely right. Like, you want to be loud, you want to be visible, you want to do like content that speaks to each different stage in someone's user journey. And it is completely unsustainable for a founder or for a single person to man all of that. Social is a full time job. And so having content systems that help the founder, help the CEO take a step back while still being visible, like those are really, really impactful systems. And so,
Well,
yes.
and I used to make long form video all the time, and
Ah,
and
yeah, okay.
that's fine. But what I've discovered is that I can just throw up my thoughts, 1 minute video, post it on TikTok, post it on YouTube, and I'll get thousands of people looking at it.
Mhm.
Yeah, granted, everybody has ADD now, and their attention span is worse than a fish. So, but you got to create content that's short, that's sweet,
Yeah,
that gets their attention. They can move on with life. Yes, you can still create, long form video.
of course. It's
But
a different part of the funnel. Absolutely.
right, but you got your phones in your pocket all the time. You get a thought, make a video, put it up on
Yeah.
TikTok, put it up on YouTube. I've gotten so many people say, "Well, Rob, that doesn't make sense. You're not talking about your business." No, I'm talking about my thoughts at that time, just like any
Yeah.
other entrepreneur would do. And so, what you're doing is you're getting me, you know, in the raw, speaking about something real, and You're seeing me that I'm not in this entrepreneurial state. I'm in this. This is just normal Rob talk,
Mhm.
but it makes me human like you and more trustworthy.
And relatable. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Rob, this is so fun. I feel like we could just like talk forever. I feel like we have scratched the surface on so many things. This,
And we'll
yeah,
have to
thank
do
you.
another one, you know. So maybe we'll schedule another interview down the road. But for everybody
Sure.
listening, please head on over and visit April Dawn everywhere, or CMO Atlas on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.
Thank you so much. Bye, Rob.